Welcome to the 17th episode of It Wasn't Me, a true crime podcast where we talk about murders that intrigue us. I'm Mercedes.
And I am Cindy. This week's murder features a couple of losers on the prowl and a family man who was randomly chosen as a victim because of an act of road rage in Idaho.
Thank you for listening to last week's episode in Burlington, North Carolina, where Circle K store clerk is murdered by a jerk in a senseless act of overkill, and the murderer is caught by a $2 bill.
Fair warning, this can be extremely horrifying and graphic, and we will use offensive language, so if you have kids, put them away for a while and join us for murder. Also, be forewarned, we are passionate and always have been about true crime, but sometimes we will make jokes and we will laugh during our podcast.
For more information and links to our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages, visit our website at itwasn'tmetruecrime.com. Subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform, and please give us a 5-star rating. While you're there, leave a comment telling us which murder intrigues you. Hey, and if you like our show, please consider supporting us through patreon.com/itwasn'tmepod. We appreciate our Patreon supporters more than we can express with words. Thank you so much. Hey, Cindy, how's it going?
It's going really well. How are you?
I'm fantastic, thank you. How's your bleacher ass?
Yeah, it's still the same. That's my life right now.
Listen, I know. I've been there, done that. And that's one thing that I just, like, you sit around on the bleacher so much when your kid's in wrestling that, you know, you might get to see him wrestle maybe one time during the day, maybe twice. And then, you know, you're sitting around all day.
Right. Well, this last time I watched him wrestle, it was 2 days, and he wrestled 9 times. And that was including the, like, championship, like, bout, or not. He wasn't like up for 1 and 2, but he was up for 5th, and actually he won 5th place. I'm proud of him, you know. Anyway, I had something really witty to say right there, but I forgot.
But you forgot. So did you have to drive far for this wrestling tournament?
This past time, a couple weekends ago, I drove about an hour away. This time I drove, you know, like 5 miles up the road, but I don't remember what I was going to say. I wasn't really all that witty. I just wanted to say that even though I have bleacher ass and it hurts after 2 days of it, even if my kid wrestled once, I want him to take away from the fact that my mom was there, my dad was there, and that's what he remembers.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, it's great, but
because there are lots of parents who weren't there.
All right, so you drove to go to this tournament. Did you get stuck behind somebody that maybe pissed you off, got on your nerves a little bit?
Actually, I did. Several people, because I wanted them to get the hell out of the way. You don't have to come to a complete stop when you're turning.
And did you, like, give any kind of rude gestures? Like, you know, maybe the middle finger or a shout out, like, get the fuck off the road or anything like that?
I honked my horn, and then my husband honked my horn.
So you're driving and he's honking the horn for you.
Yes, I always have to drive.
Well, that's where we're going with this week's murder, because this week's murder takes place in Idaho, and it has to do with a little bit of road rage. So keep that in mind, fellow listeners, next time you're driving down the road and somebody pisses you off. So this story, like I said, takes place in Idaho, and we're going to start with a guy named William Kirk, and he goes by the name Beau. Beau Kirk is an x-ray tech at Northwest Specialty Hospital in Post Falls, Idaho, and he was a loving family man. Like, there's no one, and a great friend, there is no one that said a bad word about this guy. He called his wife every day. He was very close with his children. And he had a very short commute from the hospital to his home. So he worked in one little town, and then he lived in another. So he would call his wife every night before he got off work and say, look, you need me to pick up anything, whatever. And she would, so she would know when to expect him. It was about a 15 to 20 minute commute. This particular day, October 22nd, 2016, they chit-chatted for a while. They actually talked about ice cream. He texted his daughter about going to a haunted house. Just a very loving family man. He was expecting his first grandchild. His son was 21 at the time, and he was expecting a baby. So life was really good for Beau Kirk. You know, he was just an all-around good guy. But he didn't come home in the 15 or 20 minutes after he called his wife. He went missing, and he was expected home by 7:20, and he never showed up. Well, at 9:21, his wife, distressed and crying, calls 911. She's begging for help, and
they probably weren't ready to. I was sorry to interrupt, but so after about 20 minutes, she calls 911, and they're probably trying to calm her down.
No, she doesn't call 911 until almost 2 hours later. So he's supposed to be home at 7:20. She ends up calling at 9:21. She's frantic. This is not her husband.
Yes.
Her husband doesn't say, well, let me just say, her husband is not a lot like my husband.
Probably not mine.
So, you know, when her husband said, I'll be home in 20 minutes, he would show up in 20 minutes.
Oh, gotcha.
So 2 hours later, he's still not home. She is freaking out. And I'll tell you, and I'm going to explain why in just a minute. But, you know, she called 911. She's frantic and crying. She says, my husband, Beau, didn't come home from work. She said that he had called her over 2 hours previously to tell her he was on his way home, which only takes 15 to 20 minutes. And he's very reliable, so he doesn't lie to her. So the call, she says, hi, my husband he didn't get home from work today. He works at Northwest Specialty Hospital. Over 2 hours ago, he was supposed to be home, but I just looked at our account, and there are withdrawals on our checking account that he would never do. I'm frantic. I don't know what to do. So she'd gotten some sort of alert. She checked her accounts, and there were $900 worth of withdrawals out of their checking account. And she said he would never do anything like that.
Wow. So she probably, like you said, she probably started receiving alerts that money was withdrawn. Or I know when anything like clears, not so much, I don't know about ATMs, but I know when I pay a bill or whatever, I get an alert on my phone saying such and such amount has been withdrawn from your account.
And I do that. I set mine up so that anytime, because my account had been hacked not too long ago, actually. And so I set mine up that anytime an account over $50, anytime like a transaction over $50 goes through, I get a text alert. This is possible. Didn't say.
It's really smart.
She just knew $900 is missing from her account and her husband is not home. She's freaking out.
I imagine so. I would be too.
Yeah. So the cash withdrawals, there were two at his normal bank. They were at 8:34 p.m. So an hour after he was supposed to be home. There are two cash withdrawals from one ATM. And then about 15 minutes later, there's another cash withdrawal at a bank just down the road. Now, later on, this is a clue because you know the ATMs have cameras in them.
Yes.
So 20 minutes after her call to 911, someone calls 911 and reports a truck burning on, I'm going to tell you, it's 23,000, the 23,000 block of North Rimrock Road in Idaho, which means absolutely nothing to me since I've never been there. But it's kind of important later on. The truck is ablaze. It is burning up.
Oh, no.
Right? So when police and the Timberlake Fire and Rescue finally get the burning truck under control, they finally put the fire out. They did not find Beau in it. He was not in it. But they did identify it as his truck. His 2015 GMC. It belonged to him. And they realized, whoa, his wife just called 911 and reported him missing not even 20 minutes ago. He was not in the vehicle, as I said.
Oh, wow.
Now, police don't really have anything to go on because I guess the road between where he works and where he lives, you know, there's not much traffic or whatever going down there. I really don't know if that's the truth or not, but I don't think a lot of people drive down it based on what conspired later. Okay, but they do have the video footage from the ATMs. They have the video footage, and they notice that there's a suspect at the time and both banks that show the driver wearing a black ski mask, a bulky flannel sweater, black rubber gloves that were covered in wool fingerless gloves. His face was covered with a black handkerchief, And there was another person also in the car, but they could not make that person's feature. They could not identify that person. They also later at a gas station, they caught the truck, and they caught a picture of a man filling a 5-gallon gas can, and they soon learned that that was the gas that was used to douse Kirk's 2015 GMC pickup truck.
Oh no, that's freaking awful.
So, yeah, it is. And 3 days later, they finally found his body. It was 8 miles from where the burning truck was found.
Wow. So how did they? I'm wondering how his body got there.
Oh, okay, so this is. I'm just going to share the timeline. It's in Kootenai. I think I'm saying that right. Kootenai County Sheriff's Office says a body was found near the Hayden Creek, which is in the Coeur d'Alene National Forest. It was unclear at that time if the body was Kirk, so they didn't identify him as a Kirk, though they believed it was. They also, on that same day, released the surveillance video showing the man with the mask over his face at the ATM using Kirk's card, but they don't know who he is.
Okay.
The next day, Wednesday, October 26th, at 1 p.m., they confirmed that the body found near Hayden Creek is Beau Kirk. So the poor man was dead. Investigation changes from a missing persons case to a homicide investigation, and they released a second surveillance video that reveals 2 suspects. One person was driving Kirk's truck, and then there was another truck following Kirk's truck, or vice versa, but there were 2 trucks there.
Okay.
At 3 p.m. on Wednesday, October 26th, a family friend of Kirk's, Brian Johnston, tells News Channel 2 that he was the one who found Kirk's body. He said he was following the advice of a psychic who said that Kirk was in a ravine near water.
I'm sorry, what? A psychic?
Yeah, so his friend went to a psychic, according to this news. I don't know how much credence to give to that, because this KREM2 news seemed a little bit sensational, but maybe the guy did go to a psychic. I don't know. Whatever the case, the body was found near water.
Wow. I know that I see that on like TV shows all the time where they say they consulted a psychic, and they make fun of it. So I don't know. Do police departments really do that?
It wasn't the police department. It was a very good family friend.
Right. You did say that. It was a family friend. But then do the police do they have to take that into account as legitimate?
I don't think they have to take it into account. I don't imagine that too many police would. I know that I have seen documentaries and stuff where cops are like, I would even take advice from a psychic at that point. So I don't know. Anyway, after the body was found, Beau Kirk's family members were grieving and they were angry. Some of the things that they put out on social media, like one of his sisters, Cynthia Bogner, posted on Facebook that there's a special place in hell waiting for you, you monster. So she's referring to whoever did this. Remember, they don't know who it was. They just saw whoever it was in a ski mask. She says, you will get what you deserve. How dare you take my brother's life? Do you care that you have deprived his children of their father, his wife out of her rock and soulmate? She continued, please, if you have any clue who this murderer could be, please do not hesitate to report it to the authorities. His cousin thanked people for their support of the family. There's a bunch of people, they came together and they had, they raised money, like a fundraiser, I guess. Spaghetti dinner or something. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was a get-together. She said that my sweet cousin Beau Kirk was such a great guy, loved by all. Words cannot express how heartbroken we all are. Love you so much, Beau, and I will miss your happy smile. In a later post, she wrote, Beau was taken away too young at 41 and leaves behind his lovely wife, sister, and 2 kids, and an older son is expecting a baby girl. She will not have gotten to meet him, but she will always have him as her guardian angel. Now, a police officer, Wolfinger, said that Kirk's disappearance and death affected the entire community, and he knew Kirk personally. And he said, we're going to find who is responsible, and that's our promise to you. Now, just as a side note, he and his wife had been together for 23 years. So he was 41, according to this. So what were they together when he was 18? 23 years. That's a long time.
That is a very long time.
His other sister also expressed her emotions on Facebook. She said, "Where do I even begin? The thought of moving forward without you buckles me to my knees. You're my little brother, and I should have been there to protect you from the evils of this world, just like when we were kids. As I lay here, so many memories flood over me, and I can't help but smile through all the tears. That's what you did for everyone who ever met you. You made them laugh and smile always. You are no longer here, and I'm going to have to learn to move forward again. You will always be here with me in my heart. I love you so very much, and you will always be with me." Now, I can understand people like going on Facebook, but I just always wonder why people like write these posts to someone who's dead.
I don't know. I mean, maybe it's just a way of healing for them. I mean, obviously, they're not going to, their dead loved ones aren't going to see this. I mean, I don't know. Maybe, I don't know.
Like people say, "Oh, to my mom in heaven, happy Mother's Day." Well, your mom in heaven isn't going to see this.
I think maybe it's just, I mean, part of it is they want people to know that they're thinking.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not trying to say that they're like trying to get attention, but they want people to know today is my mom's anniversary of her death or her birthday. I mean, I don't really say to Granddaddy, "I love you. This is your 12th heavenly birthday." But I mean, I have said things about it being my grandfather's birthday, but not necessarily addressing.
Today would be my mom's 63rd birthday or whatever, but I don't like say, "Mom, I miss you." And I don't know. I guess it's just me. I was always wondering that, just kind of. Well, anyway, the media, especially this KREM2 News, was in a frenzy. This is a good family man. And of course, he doesn't go home. He doesn't show up at home. So it is kind of scary. But they speak with a private investigator who is not at all connected to the case. They just call. It reminds me a little bit about Nancy Grace, she just calls up these random people.
Right.
They call a guy who is a private investigator who's not at all connected to the case. And they say, "Could you look at the surveillance video and tell us what you can about what's going on?" And I guess that he said that it appeared that these Idaho murder suspects had done something like this before.
Really?
This is just his professional opinion based on video. He's not done any investigation whatsoever.
Okay.
Now, Thursday, October 27th, 2016, authorities asked the public for additional help in finding the suspects. They also asked for any extra surveillance video from the public or local businesses. And just recently, in my own neighborhood, there was a murder, and the police did ask one of my friends who owns a business on the street, asked him for video. Can we have your surveillance footage? And he turned it over.
Good. Yeah.
I mean, the guy still wanted, but so the police are searching for evidence or searching for surveillance video. Now, on Friday, October 28th, they finally announced that they have arrested 2 men in connection to the murder of Beau Kirk.
Okay.
So, I'm not really sure. What they did was that they finally were able to identify the truck that was following Beau Kirk's truck. And they traced it. And I don't know which murder it is because when I went back to find out there were 2 guys involved. Okay. And one of them owned the truck. Well, I can't remember his name right now because I'm not on that slide. But anyway, okay, so on Saturday, October 29th, 2016, they arrest David Hutto, 44. He's booked into the Kootenai County Jail for second-degree murder. Kootenai. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Kootenai. It looks like Kootenai.
I hear country. What did I hear? What? Cotton Eye Joe. That's what I hear in my head.
Cotton Eye Joe. Yeah, listen, my husband loves that song. Okay. Shh.
We don't want to give up.
All right, so they book him into the Kootenai County Jail for second-degree murder charges, and then they confirm that Hutto's arrest is connected to the investigation. They did not release arrest details, or the name of the second person because that person was being held in federal custody.
Oh.
On Sunday, October 31st, on Halloween, Hutto made his first appearance in court. Prosecutors argue that Hutto followed Kirk and kidnapped him after a road rage incident.
Oh, here we go.
So, I went to college in St. Louis, and one time this dude cut me off and I like honked my horn at him and he literally pointed a gun at me.
Like a real gun?
To me it looked like a real gun.
Holy
and
shit.
It scared the shit out of me. So you know what? I try not to be too emotional regarding when someone cuts me off or whatever. I don't usually honk my horn or draw attention to myself. I might cuss them out in my car where they can't hear me.
Right.
But I don't, since that happened, it was so scary. And I just keep, every time that incident just like comes in my mind when somebody pisses me off on the road.
Yeah, that would freak me out. Mm-hmm. Seriously, I would. My father-in-law, we got my father-in-law a gun for Christmas. And that's why. Because somebody like tried to run him off the road, and then when he stopped, he pulled over into like a parking lot, a gas station, and the guy followed him, and I think he was like waving a gun or something. It was bad enough that it made my father-in-law want a gun, so that's what my husband got him for Christmas.
Okay, so you can buy someone a gun for Christmas. You don't have to like have that person go through.
No, we actually paid for it, and he went down and got it, and so he had to do the background check and all of that. So we just paid for it.
Okay. I'm not going to tell people I don't own a gun, but I'm okay with Second Amendment rights, but I don't like guns personally. But no. Anyway, back to what we were talking about. Now they have identified the body. They found Beau Kirk. They have arrested the two men that they know are involved. And the son is like, my dad was a good man. This is probably just an understatement, but he was liked by everyone and he was able to brighten up a room. His wife, Amanda, she didn't really, she wasn't in the limelight. Like a lot of people are like, oh, she's not posting anything on social media about her husband and, does she really love him and all of that? But
what? I'm sorry. What? Yeah. Because she wasn't posting on social media, they thought that maybe it's none of your business. Right.
And you know me, I'm not a big social media person. I don't like airing my own business. And I think I also like to grieve privately. So I can kind of understand where she's coming from. So a lot of her family and friends were speaking out for her. Now, police quickly identified Justin Roy Booth. He was the guy that had the truck. He's the one that owned the truck. According to the case's lead detective, Sergeant Ken Lalatin with the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office, Hutto and Booth, what happened is they were driving. This is according to the testimony of the guys. They were driving and Kirk flashed his brights at them and it pissed them off. So they pulled over to the side of the road and let Kirk pass, and then they followed him home.
That's ridiculous.
Right? They followed him home, and then when he pulled into his driveway, the two men, one of the men got out of the truck and forced Kirk back into Kirk's own truck at gunpoint. So one man was driving Booth's truck, and then the other was Kirk's. And I'm not sure if Kirk was actually driving, like he forced Kirk to get in the truck, or if the other guy was driving. But so now there are two trucks, and Kirk was kind of kidnapped out of his own driveway.
Wow.
So they drove for several miles up near Hayden Creek in the Coeur d'Alene National Forest, where they finally pulled to the side of the road. Now, testimony from Hutto and Booth are contradictory. Like, one saying, oh, it wasn't me, it was the other guy. And the other guy saying, oh, no, it wasn't me, right?
Just like our last episode.
Right, yeah. So what detectives do know is, I don't know which one of you it was, but it doesn't matter. Because they know that one of them led Kirk out of the truck, shot him in the back, and then continued to shoot him 8 times while he was on the ground. They left his body on the side of the road by a ravine.
Oh, man. That's no way to treat it.
They then took the truck. One of them drove the truck. This is kind of where it's iffy, but they were in his truck, and, did they get his PIN for the ATM? Did they get that before they shot him?
Right.
They had to. Tell me your PIN number, or I'm going to shoot you. So they had the PIN number.
So maybe they took him because they could have if I was, okay, let's say, if I was going to want somebody's PIN number, I'm not going to shoot them dead before I go and determine if that money really can be withdrawn or not. Because if I shoot them and then I don't have their PIN number and they gave me 1234 and that's not 1234, then I can't ask them.
So it's unclear to me, and I could not find like direct evidence or anything saying. I don't know if Kirk was in the truck when they were at the ATMs. There were pictures of someone else in the truck, but it was unclear if it was Kirk or one of the kidnappers. Whatever the case is, they knew his PIN number because they withdrew about $900.
They would be sorely disappointed if they I'm like, you can have my PIN number, but you're not gonna.
You know, sometimes that thing comes across on Facebook or whatever, that if you put your PIN number in backwards, but I don't know if that's true or not. Is that just a hoax?
Yes, because I saw some little fact checker, maybe
a fact checker.
Fact checker. And it might have actually been our local sheriff's department who put a thing out, because they do address certain like Facebook things that go around. They'll address them and say whether they're true or not. And I really do think that they did, and came out saying that was false. It was a myth. It doesn't really work.
Okay, so another news source is that Kirk wasn't with them. They returned to Coeur d'Alene and then used Kirk's stolen card to withdraw about $900. And the two were caught on multiple security camera videos, driving the two vehicles and withdrawing money. So they were kind of, they were dumbasses, honestly. When they were arrested, Hutto was originally charged with second-degree murder, but the charges were later amended to first-degree robbery, first-degree kidnapping, and first-degree murder. Pretty serious fucking charges, man.
Absolutely.
These are some bad dudes. For real.
And they were just out roaming the streets.
Well, and we're going to talk about what they were out doing, because the Kootenai County Sheriff when they announced the arrest, it's this big what do they call those things? Press release or
like good Lord.
A press conference.
Yes.
They said that they worked countless hours with multiple agencies to capture the two men. They didn't specify how they located the two men or release their identities, but I did read that they identified the truck, the drive, not Beau Kirk's truck, but the other truck, and they figured out that way.
Okay.
Hutto was accused of kidnapping Kirk about 7:30 p.m. on Saturday, October 22nd, after the incident that happened while he was on his way home. Apparently, Kirk flashed bright lights while driving behind Hutto and Booth, which enraged them. The pair apparently followed Kirk, as I said, to Coeur d'Alene and kidnapped him when he turned into his driveway.
So, why did that enrage them so much? Were they looking to pick on someone? So were they doing it on purpose, and they were just waiting for the next person they deemed asshole to flash their lights at him, and then they were pouncing on someone?
As a matter of fact, Cindy, yes, they were out looking for someone to rob
at
that point.
Prowling.
So they just happened to randomly pick this guy who flashed their brights at him. Now, I want to tell you a little bit about Hutto, because he's one of the guys that kidnapped Beau Kirk, and he was born in, I think he was born in North Carolina, which it was in North or South Carolina. His brother Sam was contacted, and Sam told the media that he wasn't surprised that his brother was in trouble, because he's always in trouble, but he was terribly shocked by charges in this case. He said that his brother's been in and out of trouble, but he's never really done any kind of violence on another person. So he was very shocked with these charges. He said, I thought he was doing really good, and then this comes up. It's kind of a slap in the face, because I've done a lot of things for him over the years, and he says it's all been in vain. He'd give his brother money over the years, try to get him on track. He would buy his brother bus tickets to get from one place to another. As a matter of fact, he said that he bought his brother a ticket to Texas, and he thought that's where his brother was. He knew that when his brother was in Texas, he had been He had been hospitalized maybe for mental illnesses.
Oh.
But he says that after Texas, his brother ended up moving to North Idaho, and his brother had no idea. Like, he's like, I didn't even know he moved to Idaho until I got a phone call one night. So he's pretty much had a chip on his shoulder all through growing up and adulthood. That the brother said, he says that they grew up in South Carolina. He says that he heard his brother had moved to North Idaho for about 8 months, had lived there about 8 months, and started a small engine repair business with his roommate, who happens to be the other fella in the story. Booth. So they're roommates. Now, small engine repair, you think that's a big business?
I mean, that's like go-karts and lawnmowers and stuff, right?
Right.
Mopeds.
That's what I would think. I'm not sure there's a big business for that. All right, well, the brother said that they didn't speak on the phone often, but they did speak the Friday before Hutto was arrested. Sam says he was supposed to call his brother back after taking another. They were talking, and Sam got a phone call. He's like, dude, I have to call you back. And he never called his brother back. He did get a voicemail late that night from David Hutto, and his brother asked him to call him back immediately no matter what time. But when Sam tried calling his brother back, no answer.
Okay.
He said later he learned that it was because his brother had been arrested for second-degree murder. So I'm not sure if David Hutto called his brother, for another bus ticket. Dude, I need to get out of Idaho. I'm not sure what happened there. The brother said, in no way do I expect any leniency. If he did this, I want justice to be served just like the victim's family does. It hurts that I may never see my brother again. But if he did what he's being charged with, then basically I don't have a brother.
Wow.
He also said that he didn't know how his brother met his roommate. Like, he's like, I don't know how he met this other dude, this Justin Booth.
I mean, that's pretty harsh, but I mean, like we said before.
In our last episode, we talked about this, didn't we? Yeah.
Yes, we talked about siblings not being murderers.
Right. God, it seems like that's been coming up a lot lately, right? Well, Hutto ended up pleading guilty to the crimes on February 1st, and at his sentencing, Kirk's family mostly used the opportunity to remember their father, the husband and brother that he was. They shared stories. Like, one of the stories was how Beau got his name, because his name is William. But when he was a kid, he was fascinated with Bobo the Clown. Bobo the Clown. And so he just said one day, hey, my name is Bobo from now on, and it's stuck. So even as he was growing up, he started going by Beau. And she said that most people didn't even know that his real name wasn't Beau or Bobo at all. They also used the platform to ask for the maximum possible sentence of 3 consecutive life terms. So I'm guessing maybe Idaho doesn't have the death penalty. But as part of a plea deal, the state agreed not to seek... Oh, no, here it is. Maybe it is. Because he pled guilty, they agreed not to seek the death penalty.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I hear... You hear that a lot. So, okay. I mean... So if I plead, they'll tell
We'll take
them.
the death penalty off the table if you plead guilty, right?
Yes.
Now, Brian Kirk, this is the 21-year-old kid who was expecting a baby. He said, these 2 men are honestly a waste of space on Earth. The men should never be allowed to walk the streets and cause the same amount of pain to another family. By the end of the hearing, they got their wish because the first district judge, Scott Wayman, agreed with the state's assertion that Hutto was likely to offend again because he had a long history of prior felony convictions. He also put a great deal of weight into the gravity of the crime. I mean, this is freaking murder. I mean, kidnapping, robbery, murder, arson. What else?
Well, road rage is a crime. I mean, road rage is a chargeable offense now.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, it's like an escalation.
Right. But they were already out looking for someone to do this to rob. Now, I don't know if they were going to kill anyone, but that's what it turned up. The judge said that Mr. Hutto poses a significant risk to reoffend. He's a danger to society. And it says that while he denies actually pulling the trigger that caused the death of Mr. Kirk, he does admit that he was involved in all of the events that led up to the death. Now, after the judge pronounced Hutto, he got 3 life sentences without the possibility of parole. Amanda Kirk, that was Beau's wife, burst into tears. She said, I really hope justice will be served today. I hope this man never sees the light of day. Now, defense attorneys never argued that he wasn't guilty. Hutto was not guilty of the crime, but instead They questioned whether it was mostly the fault of the roommate, Justin Booth, who they believe was a mastermind behind the plan to kidnap and kill Kirk. So they believe that the roommate was more at fault.
Oh, okay. Well, of course they're going to blame somebody else.
Well, yes. Now, the Hutto's defense questioned why Booth was not charged with anything related to Kirk's death. They said that despite Hutto saying Booth was heavily involved in Kirk's death during interviews with detectives, Booth was put in federal custody on a charge of unlawful possession of a firearm. So he was caught with the gun that was used in Kirk's murder. I don't understand why the federal government, why did he go into federal custody?
To me, that sounds like that maybe he was a state's witness for something else, or maybe there's bigger fish to fry, and so he was turning on that person and they put him in federal, or was he because if they were arresting him with a felon with a firearm.
Yes, he was already on parole for something else.
But was that a federal crime? And that's why
the state wouldn't pick up the other thing?
Possibly. Maybe he knew more information, so that was part of his deal.
It could be, but I know that it's I don't know, it's sketchy to me.
I mean, it's all speculation.
The defense attorney says, Mr. Booth could be sitting right here next to Mr. Hutto, but the state chose not to do so. So the state chose not to pursue charges. Now, I know that when we did the Adrian Robinson murder, I remember that Georgia chose not to follow through with some of the charges because the state of Virginia, their penalties were stronger. So I'm wondering if maybe the state is like, well, he's going to get more if the federal system picks it up. I don't know, but it's questionable.
Very much so.
Now, his attorney also raised doubt over Hutto's mental health, stating he was previously diagnosed with bipolar disorder. He had experienced audio and visual hallucinations in the past, and he admitted to doctors that he has strong desire to harm others. Because like I said, remember I said that in Texas, he had actually had 4 stays in mental health facilities since 2005. The most recent treatment that he received was at the Tropical Texas Behavioral Health Clinic in Edinburgh, Texas, from 2009 to 2016. So that's 7 years. He was diagnosed with major depressive disorder and anxiety. Now, he was taking medication, but when he moved to North Idaho a year before the murder, he stopped taking it. According to testimony, he said that he wasn't taking medication at the time of Kirk's killing. He told his doctors that he was moving to northern Idaho. However, his doctors sadly, this is what the attorney said, sadly his doctors made no effort to identify a provider in northern Idaho that could treat him, that could continue to keep him medicated. Now, whose job is that if he chooses to move? I mean, I get he'd never had like a serious violent crime.
Yeah, I mean, he's an adult. He
right?
should. It's his responsibility. It's not the doctor's responsibility,
right.
Unless the doctor felt that somebody was in danger. But remember when we, on the past episodes, when the guy who was all over the campus at the college, the university, killing different girls, and
That's
had been
the
in
Sunday Slasher, right?
Yes,
okay.
Coral Watts, and they were unable. The mental institution was unable to call the college because it would violate his rights,
his privacy.
Yes. I mean, we have HIPAA laws now. They can't just call and start reaching out and saying so and so is moving to your area. He has major depressive disorder and anxiety, so you need to medicate him.
Right.
They can't do that legally. They can't do that.
Right. So, anyway, that's his defense, that he had mental health conditions and that's the doctor's fault. David Hutto, Booth's roommate, already took a plea deal on the case, and as part of the deal, Hutto faces up to life in prison on the murder and kidnapping charges, but he waived the right to appeal and had to pay restitution. How the hell he's going to do that, I don't know.
His 10 cents an hour from prison?
At his sentencing, a witness for the defense testified that Booth is a white supremacist. Now, this is the roommate, Booth. So now we're talking about Justin Roy Booth, who he's just an all-around bad guy. He's somebody testified that he's a white supremacist. They also testified that he was made anti-Semitic comments when Kirk drove up behind them the night of the murder. And Booth claimed that it was Hutto who had pulled the trigger to end Kirk's life, but Hutto maintained it was Booth. So, I didn't do it, he did. Now, in 2011, Justin Roy Booth had been convicted of robbery, 2 counts of grand theft, burglary, and felony eluding a police officer. He was sentenced to concurrent unified sentences of 12 years with 3 years determinate for robbery, 7 years with 3 years determinate. I don't know what that means, determinate. 3 years determinate for each of 2 counts of grand theft, 7 years with 3 years determinate for burglary, and 3 years determinate for felony eluding. Booth appeals, contending that his sentences are excessive. So he is, he believes that these charges are excessive. So this is where I found this information was an appeal from 2011. So this is before they attack Kirk that night. Now, Booth is sentenced. The case is closed, but Claudia Jackson doesn't believe that justice has been served. She says that her brother, Beau Kirk, was murdered in 2016, and one of the men who had a hand in his death was sentenced Tuesday. She didn't believe that his punishment was enough. She said that Justin Booth and his accomplice both pled guilty in Kirk's murder, and a judge sentenced Booth to 30 years in prison, and he's eligible for parole. Jackson asked that Booth be sentenced to life without parole, and she was shocked because she said, in my opinion, he might not have pulled the trigger, but he's just as guilty as the other guy.
Well, just like our previous case, the guy didn't do anything about stopping the murder or didn't call the police, didn't help the murder victim.
But they were both involved. I mean, one guy's driving the truck, somebody's getting the gas, somebody's getting the money out of the ATM. It was 2 different guys doing those things.
Yeah, I mean, he's just as guilty.
Just because one person is the guy that shot, and who knows, maybe they took turns shooting him. Who knows? Now, Jackson, the sister, told another news media outlet that the defense asked the judge for 10 to 15 years in prison. She says, I am still shocked about that, but at least the judge gave him more than what the defense was asking for. So the defense, so after the sentencing, the family was very emotional. She said every time something came up, a hearing, a meeting, whatever, it was always brought right back up again. So the murder was just brought front and center every time. She said you don't get to grieve the way somebody else in a different situation would be able to grieve. So it's not like, he got sick and died. He was murdered. And now every time there's a hearing or something else is brought up, you have to relive that.
Right. They ripped that scab right back off.
Jackson said that while she was reading her impact statement, she told the judge that their own mother didn't even know about Beau's death. She said that their mom lives in Mexico and her health is a concern. So no one told the mom because they were worried about risking her mom's health if she told them what happened to Beau. Told her mom what happened to Beau.
Do you know how pissed off I would be if I found out my kid was dead and no one bothered to fucking tell me? I don't care if I...
Right?
That's pretty shitty.
Yeah, and I'm not sure the situation that was I thought that was quite odd. Quite odd. And I don't know why the mother was in Mexico. Who knows? Anyway, Justin Booth was sentenced to at least 30 years in prison. So he has to serve 30 years before he's eligible for parole for his role in the death of Beau Kirk. And the sentence comes after he agreed to plead guilty to murder and robbery charges. Kirk's sister told KHQ, whatever that is, some news station, that she hoped that Booth would receive the same sentence as Hutto did, but he is now eligible for parole after 30 years. And she's like, I don't understand why he didn't get life without parole. She said that he deserves the same sentence. So she's just, it's quite confusing why one guy could get one sentence and another guy could get the other sentence. Another thing that I learned is that Justin Booth is serving his time in Texas. So he's, I guess, at a federal prison in Texas. So not even in Idaho.
Wow. Yeah, because federal prisons, they can send you all over the country.
Right.
Wow.
Now,
I still am wondering why it must be something to do with his parole. He must have it must have been a federal offense the first time, and he violated his parole, and I guess the federal government trumps the state, so they said, no, we'll punish him. There's some deal there. There's something shady that I'm not.
There is something shady. It's like, I don't quite understand it, but I think the lesson here to me is just be careful who you respond to if they cut you off or they honk their horn at you, because you never know if you have some fucking psycho that's going to follow you home and kidnap you and take your PIN number, steal your money, and then shoot you in the back and leave you on the side of the road.
It's true. And I've been followed home before, and it wasn't because I was, flipping somebody off, honking my horn, flashing my lights. I was leaving work, and I was scared to death. I mean, because I worked at like a touristy place, and I had to drive, we'll say 20 minutes in the middle of the night. So it was kind of a far distance, and I noticed this truck following me, and it followed me down my road, which there weren't any lights on my road, and my idiot self pulled into my house, and I was still living with my parents at the time. My dad was out of town. I jump out of my car, and I run in the house really quick before the car rounded the corner to see, like, if I was in my yard or not, and I ran in there, and I'm like, Mom, because it's before cell phones, and I'm like, someone followed me, and the next thing I know, my 16-year-old brother is, standing there with a shotgun, and he's going outside, and I'm like, holy shit. But, I mean, it was scary,
So you're supposed to drive to a police station or to, like, a Waffle House or someplace that's open all the time. It has people there.
Well, I'll tell you what. It was right down the street from Loretta's substation, and she wasn't there, and it was closed.
And Loretta's substation is from a previous episode. We talk about Adrian Robinson. So that's it for my murder today. I mean, to me, it was very scary because it's something that we deal with every day, Like
yes.
Driving on the road and assholes. So, yeah. Thanks for listening, guys. Hope you enjoyed this week's murder. We so appreciate sharing our passion with you. We really thank you for your support. But if you want to support us further, you can subscribe to our podcast and give us a 5-star rating. While you're there, please leave us a comment. We appreciate, something that we can reflect on, how we can make our podcast better. But you can also share absolutely anything. Your subscription and ratings are very important to our success. Help push us up the charts. You can do this on your favorite platform. We also have links to our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages on our website at itwasn'tmetruecrime.com.
Yes, and we are so grateful to spend our time together to share our murderous stories. Thank you again for listening and supporting us. We would like to thank our Patreon supporters. They are the extra. You too can become one of our beloved patrons by signing up at patreon.com/itwasn'tme. Subscribe to our podcast and leave us a review and rating. And thanks again, guys. And remember, it wasn't me.
And don't forget, it's patreon.com/itwasn'tmepod. Okay, love you. Bye.